Okay, good evening, everyone. I hope everything's doing well. I am sorry we have the start of a new semester for me. It's the first week, so I didn't really have any courses that had a lot of work. The way it turned out, I actually only have one course until October. I'm not happy about that, but at least it should make things a little easier. All right, we're going to do some tech checks quickly just to make sure everything's working. So the first And it looks like we have sound. Now we're going to do a tech check on the video to make sure we have sound when we play the video. While we're doing that, I might as well explain what tonight's stream is going to be about. Now, if there's one thing that annoys me about people's use of ChatGPT, it's that a lot of people think ChatGPT, and I shared the wrong screen, is in fact to be used as some kind of fact checker or research tool, and it absolutely is not designed for that. Okay, did we get the... And I did the wrong screen again. All right, so I need to pay more attention to which screen I'm sharing. And make sure we get the right video. Okay, that's the right video. Give me a second here.
The Imane Khelif.
All right, sounds like we have sound on the video. So for those of you who don't know, and I imagine you do because you probably pay closer attention to sports than I do, Imane Khelif is a boxer who was excluded from boxing for, oh, geez, I can't remember exactly, who was excluded from boxing by the IBA, a Russian organization, because of the results of an unspecified test. Now, I haven't been following that story that closely. I believe the indication is that she has Swyer syndrome, which is where someone can be born with XY chromosomes, but they will develop as a female. Now, my problem here isn't that Imane Khelif is trying to do research on this. My problem is how he is doing it. People need to understand what ChatGPT is designed to do. So we'll get into that as we start the video.
Situation is a really troubling one for a bunch of reasons. The main reason to me, and the reason why I'm even making a video about this, is because it's so sad where things are right now in society. When something pops up, the first thing that people want to do is just be outraged instead of like, let's actually look at the evidence. Now, in this video, we're actually going to be looking at the evidence that's
No, what you're going to be doing is you're going to be asking ChatGPT, which is not the same thing as looking at the evidence. You're going to use prompts which are skewed towards what you want to come up with.
suggests that Imane Khelif is probably a biological male. But again, the reason why I was even interested in this in the first place is because of the way that people were responding to it. Like, let's look at, as an example, how Charlie Kirk started talking about this issue. This was back on August 1st.
And yes, if I want reasonable, well-informed opinions about trans people, the first person I go to is Charlie Kirk. Now, there are some people during the Terrence Howard controversy that forced me to block out the words gender ideology so they didn't sound so bad and so they didn't bring up irrelevant points, because gender ideology had nothing to do with whether or not 1 times 1 equals 2. It doesn't. In this case, I will probably go back and unblock it just so people can indeed have their say, but I might not.
Enough of the gender insanity and the pandering to avoid hurting someone's precious feelings. The Olympics just allowed a biological man, Imane Khelif, to pummel Italian Olympian Angela Carini. I very much doubt that he was aware of the information that we're going to go through. So people were just sort of knee-jerk reacting to the way that this person looks and then inferring that, oh, this must be a man, this must be a lot of other people were even claiming that this was a transgender individual. So, but this is the sort of reaction that we were getting from people on this side of the issue. Now, on the other side, we can see here Dan McClellan, who's actually a theologian. He's got a PhD in theology and religion. So he says, Imane.
And yes, another group I frequently go to when I want to get my opinions on trans people is people who hold PhDs in theology. Why that degree is just as relevant as my computer science degree is to gender issues.
Khelif is a cis woman who has lost several fights to other cis women. I'm not really sure what the importance of that part is, because losing a fight to a woman doesn't make you a woman, and it also doesn't mean.
Oh, capturing Christianity, let me help you with what the important part is there, because you missed it. The important part was she was a cisgender woman. That is, someone whose gender identity aligns with the gender she was assigned at birth. An important part of the story that everyone is missing is that she is Algerian, and Algerian people are not necessarily pro-LGBT.
That it's safe for you to fight other women just because you have lost to other women. But so anyways, he goes on to say, and lives in a country where it's illegal to transition, which that doesn't really help us at all. Like, just knowing that someone can't transition doesn't help anything. Some women have elevated testosterone levels. Calling her a biological man is bigoted and idiotic. Okay, so on both sides of this, we're seeing people who are just outraged and reacting immediately. I mean, there's a lot more examples we could go through. Brian Krasenstein, I don't know if that's the way you say his name. Facts: Khelif is not transgender or
Krasenstein was correct. It is German.
Transsexual. Khelif is a biological woman. How do you know this? In Algeria, the country that Khelif represents, transgender identity is prohibited, as is changing sex or gender and medical or hormonal.
Wait, did I go over Bree's premiere? I mean, honestly, I scheduled it later tonight, but I didn't even know Bree was going to do a premiere.
Treatments to transition to another sex. What we're about to see is that there's a lot of information. This whole case is very complex. There's a lot of moving parts, and there's a lot of information that just people did not know about, including myself. And we're actually going to employ the help of philosopher Dr. Thomas Bogardus in this video. We're also going to guess that Imane Khelif is ChatGPT to help us.
You know, another group I go to when I want to know about the medical issues surrounding trans people? Philosophers.
Break down some of these concepts.
Honestly, I don't think she would have been, but I don't follow sports.
So we're about to learn. Yeah, the reactions from people.
With one caveat, I do watch the World Cup.
Well, we're just insane, absolutely insane. But before we move on, I want to remind Christians how are we supposed to react to these sorts of cultural issues? So let's look at Colossians 3:12. Put on then, as God's chosen ones, holy and beloved, compassionate hearts, kindness, humility, meekness, and patience. And then in verse 14, and above all, put on love, which binds everything together in perfect harmony. So I can't really speak for the non-Christians here, but for Christians, we need to do a whole lot better of expressing love. Even if you think you're right about something, we've got to do a better job of expressing love in the situation. So in trying to answer the question of whether Imane Khelif is a biological male or a biological female, there's some really interesting facts about this case that sort of just show us.
How about instead we answer the question of whether she's a cisgender or transgender woman? Because biological male or biological female is not all that clear-cut. As I've said many times before, binaries do not exist in biology. There are actual terms for what you're trying to say, but a strict binary only exists in math, computer science, and logic.
That this case is super complex, and there's a whole lot going on here that most people don't know about. And so people who were jumping to conclusions immediately were doing so based on very limited information. Now, that's not to say that we have all the information now, but it is to say that the information people were going on back on.
I'm not sure how much information I really need about the state of a boxer's genes or even their genitalia, especially when I don't really care.
August 1st was insufficient, and it blows my mind that people were so willing to make these kind of conclusions based on what they knew at that time. So, but here are some of the interesting facts about this case. So number one, Imane
Is that because it got politicized, maybe? Just spitballing that.
Grew up female. So he was dressed
Okay, Andrew McCall, if I stand corrected, you are correct about that. Usually as false dichotomies as well.
as a female. He identifies still to this day as a female, apparently, like that. There's no change.
All right. She is female. She has always identified as female because she is female. There is no need to misgender her just because you don't understand genetic conditions that can cause this. To be fair, I don't understand a lot of them either.
Change in that at all. Number two, it's illegal to transition in Algeria. So transitioning from one gender to another is completely prohibited. Legally, you can't do that in Algeria. So interesting fact. Number three, he has a very masculinized appearance. Let me go ahead and.
Oh, for heaven's sakes, why are you continuing to misgender her? First of all, appearances can vary widely between the genders. So saying it's masculinized doesn't mean anything because there are a lot of women who will look masculine, but they're still women.
Pull up this tweet from Piers Morgan. If this is a biological female.
Did you deliberately go to all the worst sources you could find?
No, I'm a biological aardvark. That might actually.
All right, remember that, everyone. Piers Morgan is an aardvark.
Be the case for Piers Morgan. But the point here is that when you look at.
Okay, I did not know he would agree with me on that one.
Images like this does appear to be a biological male. The muscles seem to be big, broader shoulders, obviously lack of breasts. So that's number three.
Oh, I'm so glad we have a transvestigation going on.
Number four is that Imane Khelif has XY chromosomes. So let's actually look at this post from user Pagliacci the Hated, where this person goes through and responds to some of the claims that people have made. So
And here we have another source of well-known medical advice, Twitter.
K, he's talking about Lynn and Khelif have female ID. Khelif and Lynn are not believed to be transgender, and Redux Mag made that very clear in our July 28 article. They are believed to be impacted by a difference of sexual development in which there is a developmental abnormality in secondary sex characteristics. So the specific diagnosis that we're going to be looking at and talking about in this video is something called 5-ARD. We're going to be looking at that in a little bit more detail in just a second. But let's move on to the chromosome bit here. So number three, the IBA, the International Boxing Association, never said that they had XY chromosomes. Well, in response.
And the issue here is the IBA is a Russian organization connected to Vladimir Putin, and no one really knows what tests they did.
Response to this, on March 25th, 2023, IBA president Umar Kremlev said that the boxers disqualified at the championship had XY chromosomes. He said this in a statement to TASS News. Now, what's interesting, though, about this is that typically people who are in favor of the definition of a woman that is adult human female don't actually hold.
Personally, I prefer the definition of a woman is that anyone who instinctually covers their drink when someone like Tim Pool is around.
That chromosomes determine sex, okay? But what's interesting in the case of someone with 5-ARD is that they actually do produce sperm. So let's now turn to ChatGPT, who's going to help us understand what.
And oh my gosh. All right, this is where he goes absolutely wrong. I'm not saying you can't use ChatGPT as a starting point and maybe look at its resources, but the problem is how he's going to construct his prompts, if I remember correctly. Now, what he has up there is a reasonable prompt, but why would you start with ChatGPT? Why wouldn't you go, I don't know, maybe to some medical sites that are known to have good information, like, I almost said Wikipedia, WebMD, if you're curious about this condition, and look up some basic information about the condition. Now, WebMD is occasionally wrong, but one thing it doesn't do is hallucinate.
this condition
ChatGPT does.
is. Again, it falls under the umbrella of disorder of sexual development. So explain the 5 ARD conditions.
All right, I'm going to mute myself for a second so I can look something up and let the video play.
In terms that a 14-year-old could understand. That was my question to ChatGPT. Sure, 5-ARD or 5-alpha reductase deficiency is a rare condition that affects how a person's body develops, especially before they are born. This is the important part. Our bodies have a set of instructions called genes, which tell our bodies how to grow and develop. One of these genes helps the body turn a hormone called testosterone into another hormone called DHT. DHT is very important for the development of male physical traits, like the growth of male genitalia and other male characteristics. Because of the lack of DHT, people with 5-ARD might be born with genitalia that look different from typical male genitalia. Their genitalia might look like more of a mix between male and female genitalia, or closer to typical female genitalia. In summary, 5-ARD.
Okay, let me unmute myself. The term you are looking for, capturing Christianity, and seem to be missing is, I think, intersex. But let's read from medlineplus.gov and see what it has to say about it. It is fairly similar, but here is a more accurate source. I'm not sure how accurate. 5-alpha reductase deficiency is a condition that affects sexual development before birth and during puberty. So maybe ChatGPT pulled from this particular site. People with this condition are genetically male with one X and one Y chromosome in each cell. And they have male gonads testes. Their bodies, however, do not produce enough of a hormone called dihydrotestosterone DHT, which I believe is responsible for baldness. DHT has a critical role in male... Okay. That's just more information about what DHT does. Next paragraph. Many people with 5-alpha reductase deficiency are assigned female at birth based on their external genitalia. In other cases, affected infants are assigned male at birth based on their external genitalia, often an unusually small penis, micropenis, and the urethra opening on the underside of the penis. Still, other infected infants may be assigned either female or male at birth, as their external genitalia do not look clearly male or clearly female. So basically, I think that is intersex. And what I think you seem to be missing is gender is not something that is assigned by our chromosomes. Gender is assigned when a doctor looks at us and says, we are this thing.
Is a condition where the body doesn't make enough of a hormone needed for typical male development, leading to differences in physical traits. So then my question is, a lot of philosophers who are on the sort of like traditional side of defining man and woman will argue that the way that we determine whether or not someone is...
And this is an interesting point here. How are you defining the traditional side of defining man and woman? I mean, I could go with the traditional definition of marriage, which according to the book you revere, at least in the Old Testament, is a union between one man and however many women he can afford.
As a male or a female is whether or not under normal conditions they produce either large or small gametes. And so that's the question that I asked ChatGPT. Do individuals with 5-ARD produce small or large gametes? Individuals with 5-alpha reductase deficiency, 5-ARD, produce...
And why are you asking something so weird? Honestly, I don't care.
Small gametes, which are sperm cells. And then I asked, so then it seems individuals with 5-ARD are biological males, yes?
But that does not mean they are not women, because that would be their social role in this case. I think this term is somewhat outdated, but I'm not sure. You would have to ask someone with medical background to determine whether or not this terminology is still used. Now, the reason they do this is simply for medical reasons. It is not something that should be used by people like Capturing Christianity.
Yes, individuals with 5-alpha reductase deficiency are biologically male. They have XY chromosomes, which are typical for...
And also, I want to point out something here because I almost missed it. Do we note any particular bias in his prompt? I want people in the chat to point out if they see it, because I certainly do. Now, I am going to say that ChatGPT is itself not biased. However, the data sets it consults definitely do show bias. It's going to spit out a result based on the bias in the data sets it's consulting to construct its response. What capturing Christianity seems to have missed in this point is that ChatGPT and other LLMs aren't designed to give you the right answer. They're designed to come up with whatever it thinks the next word is going to be.
For males, again, typical, not necessary, and their bodies produce testosterone and sperm. However, due to the deficiency in converting testosterone to DHT, their external genitalia may not develop in the typical male pattern before birth. Okay, so now we're going to talk about the evidence that suggests.
And it seems even with the bias in your constructed responses, based on the questions you asked, that everything is pointing to this being an intersex condition.
Imane Khelif is in fact a male that has this condition 5-ARD. So then I asked, what is the evidence for and against Imane Khelif having 5-ARD appearance? Some people have pointed.
That's kind of a subtle, let me bring that up here because someone said something in chat. It's more of a subtle distinction. The algorithms ChatGPT uses are in fact unbiased. However, the data sets it uses can have any number of biases, and the responses it's going to spit out are going to be based in part on the inherent biases the user puts into them, and capturing Christianity doesn't seem to realize he's putting in biases that will give him the answers he wants. So basically what we have here is confirmation bias going into this that capturing Christianity doesn't seem to realize that he's causing by the way he's constructing his responses.
To Khelif's muscular build, deeper voice.
Or rather, by the way he's constructing his questions, not responses.
And overall physique as indicators of a condition like 5-ARD. And then here, there have been reports of Khelif facing challenges regarding her eligibility to compete in women's boxing, which could suggest that athletic governing bodies have concerns about her biological characteristics. Evidence against lack of public medical records. There are no publicly available medical records or statements from Khelif or medical professionals confirming that she has 5-ARD. Speculation alone does not constitute evidence. But
I'm sure you would be so happy capturing Christianity if we were to make your medical records public.
But we're actually going to be looking at evidence that ChatGPT did not include at the beginning of my questioning. So in conclusion, while
you actually did research on your own?
There is speculation based on her appearance and reported competition eligibility issues, there is no definitive public evidence confirming that Imane Khelif has 5-ARD. And then I said, regarding the eligibility issues on March 25, 2023, IBA President Umar Kremlev said that Imane Khelif was disqualified from the championships for having XY chromosomes. How does this impact your overall analysis? And then ChatGPT.
All right, capturing Christianity, you're making a key mistake here. ChatGPT does not think. It's just using statistics to come up with the next word.
Says the statement by President Umar Kremlev adds significant weight to the argument that Khelif may have an intersex condition like 5-alpha reductase deficiency. Here's how this information impacts the overall analysis. The presence of XY chromosomes is a strong indicator that Khelif is biologically male, which aligns.
What you are missing capturing Christianity is, one, you're still using this the wrong way, and two, you can have XY females who can give birth. There are known cases of this.
With conditions like 5-ARD. So in summary, while this new information significantly supports the possibility that Khelif has an intersex condition like 5-ARD, it does not provide a definitive diagnosis. It does, however, justify the eligibility concerns and adds a crucial piece of evidence to the analysis.
Okay. No, it really doesn't. All it does is that we know her chromosomes, assuming this information is true, are are something different than we'd expect from a normal female.
So here's where it gets very interesting. It is also the case that Imane has a very strong masculinized appearance. Does this rule out other conditions?
And it seems that this was just pulled off of Twitter with people trying to disqualify Imane Khelif.
Here it is. The presence of a strong masculinized appearance in Imane Khelif, along with the information about her having XY chromosomes, narrows down the possible conditions but does not entirely rule out all other conditions. Individuals with 5-ARD have XY chromosomes and typically develop ambiguous or female appearing genitalia due to the body's inability to convert testosterone to DHT, which would explain why Imane Khelif was raised as a girl. At puberty, increased testosterone can lead to masculinization, such as deepening of the voice and increased muscle mass, which could explain Khalif's masculinized appearance. In complete AIS, individuals with XY chromosomes are resistant to male hormones, leading to a typically female external appearance without masculinization. However, in partial AIS, some degree of masculinization can occur, but it usually results in a less pronounced masculinization than what seems to be described in Khalif's case. Therefore, AIS is less likely, but not entirely ruled out. Congenital adrenal hyperplasia. You guys didn't know you were going to be learning about this today, and you're...
I would argue they're still not learning about it.
Did I actually? Less likely. CAH can cause masculinization due to an overproduction of androgens, but it usually affects individuals with XX chromosomes. Other intersex conditions, possible but less likely. Other rare intersex conditions could potentially explain the combination of XY chromosomes and masculinization, but they are less common, even less common than 5-ARD, and typically present different than 5-ARD. Impact on overall analysis. Let's just actually skip down to the conclusion here.
Okay, how are you going to botch this one? Are you going to assume this inconclusive conclusion supports what you've already decided, or are you going to realize maybe ChatGPT isn't going to give you the right answer?
Here, the strong masculinized appearance combined with the presence of XY chromosomes makes 5-ARD a highly probable explanation for Khelif's condition. While it does not completely rule out all other conditions, it significantly narrows the field, making 5-ARD the most likely diagnosis based on the available evidence. Okay, so why...
All right, this is something where I really wish I had thought to ask Dr. Ben before this and had seen this terrible ChatGPT script, but I am not sure that's true. While I'm sure that diagnosing people is a lot like diagnosing a PC problem, where you're asking questions to try to narrow the possible problems that a person could be suffering from down, I am pretty sure that what you have here doesn't significantly strengthen the case for what you've already decided is true. All it means is that maybe if Russia would actually release the test to tell us what they found, and there's a lot of controversy over that test because no one knows what they tested for or what the results were, then we might know that, yeah, maybe she is suffering from some sort of intersex condition. I don't know if suffering is the right word there.
Why are we talking about this in the first place? Well, I think ultimately it comes
because you don't know what you're doing?
Down to truth. People, when they first started hearing about this whole controversy, didn't...
The thing is, capturing Christianity, if you care about truth, why are you using ChatGPT to do research? Please look up what an AI hallucination is. There are famous examples of ChatGPT and other LLMs giving the wrong and dangerous answers. One of the most insidious is when an eating disorder helpline tried to replace its human staff with an LLM, and the LLM started to give out dangerous dieting advice.
Didn't care about the truth. They just wanted to immediately be outraged and defend whatever their tribe happened to believe. And so people were not slowing down and really trying to look at things objectively. There's a lot of verses in the Bible that instruct us to seek truth, but here's one that I love.
And if I wanted to look at things objectively, ChatGPT would not be my first go-to, because I know the prompts I would put into it would likely include my personal biases. This is also a problem with search engines, by the way.
Love Proverbs 23:23. Buy truth and do not sell it. Buy wisdom, instruction, and understanding. So what are you guys doing? Are you buying truth or are you selling truth? What are you guys doing? Let me know what you think about this video in the comments.
Well, I don't know about you, but I'm watching someone who doesn't understand what LLMs are good at and what they were designed for. Please Please let me know when you find such a person capturing Christianity.
Hopefully it was helpful, and we'll see you guys in the next video. And remember, Christianity is true.
Well, I have no idea if his final statement is true or not. It honestly doesn't matter to me all that much. But that was Capturing Christianity's video. We will stop sharing here. I would like to thank everyone for stopping by. I will be trying to do these maybe a little bit later on Fridays when I can. But I do need to keep the content machine going, and unfortunately live streams are a little bit easier than curated content, and I know not everyone here is a huge math and computer science nerd. I mean, I think you all should be, but not everyone is. Alright, that's it for tonight's video, everyone. I will see you back here next Friday, hopefully. Now go out and write some code.